Welcome back, and thank you for joining us this evening. This is Covenant Therapy Marriage Ministry, and I'm Janine.
I'm Teray.
And we are going to talk about marriage roles today. Marriage roles is one of those topics that some people love, some people don't love. They can be uncomfortable. They don't have to be uncomfortable. Yeah. So we thought we would just share a little bit from our own experience on marriage roles and how we handled that conversation, I guess you could say. So I'll go ahead and start if you don't mind. So basically when we got married, and if you watch the episode, our story, we talk a little bit about some of the expectations that we had coming into the marriage, and specifically who I wanted to be coming into the marriage. And I really wanted to be, that awesome stay-at-home mom, wife, who just held everything together. I had the house spotless. My kids were taken care of. I did everything. And then at the end of the night, took care of my man. That's really who I wanted to be, sincerely who I wanted to be. But what I found out is that reality is a little different than the fantasy that I had built up in my mind. So what I found out early on is that really that was a little bit of a challenge for me to accomplish all of those things. And it was definitely easier when I stayed at home. But then when I went back to work, I still tried to hold it down to the best of my ability. And it's not easy for one person to do everything. So.
Yeah, and as far as, I was concerned, I had to learn how to communicate, a lot better. And I knew how to work. I was a worker, so I knew how to work, and take care of the responsibility. In my head was, okay, I have a family, I have to provide.
Yes, yeah.
And while that's great, that's not the only thing that there is when you have a family. And I mean with children. I mean, if, I spent a lot of time being so busy working, trying to make money, to take care of us and our responsibilities, that I actually missed out on a lot of the things that I should have been present for, for her, for the kids, and these are like through different phases, of our marriage, because we don't forget, we got married in the military, so we were both working.
Yes, we were.
At that time, and then we had our first son, while still in the military, so we were still both working, but as our marriage, progressed and things changed.
And we added children.
Right, so
jobs.
This is like through the progress of time, when we're still trying to figure out, kind of what's what. I knew what, you wanted to be. I was still kind of in my own mind, trying to figure things out, but just because, for me, just because we got married never meant relinquish, the responsibilities and the things that I've learned growing up. So, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. So,
yeah, well, I even remember, because I wanted to be that person, I remember when you would jump in to help, like vacuum or do the dishes, I felt guilty.
Yeah.
I felt like I didn't do it, so you had to, and now you were mad at me, and I felt like shame because I wasn't fulfilling my duty as a wife. I just remember feeling really bad about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and unfortunately, sometimes I was, and I would let you know that, you know what I mean? And then that was something
silently, because you weren't a communicator back then.
Well, no, because you remember there'd be those times where we used to do those relationship checkups, and then sometimes you would think that everything was going fine, and then it'd be like, nah, I ain't happy,
Oh, my gosh.
So I would, and that's why I said I needed to communicate better and learn how to communicate better and not just hold it in, but I didn't like that confrontation, at home.
Yeah.
I argue and fuss and fight with people outside the house all day long, but at home it's supposed to be different. In my mind, it was supposed to be different, So yeah. Some of that was, you know, my being silent, being upset, you know, and then it just all come out, you know, at one moment, you know.
I did hate those times.
Yeah, those were not good times.
We would go on rides, and I would think everything was great, and I'd be like, "Are you happy, babe?" No, not really. What? What do you mean you're not? But I'm happy. You're not happy. You seem happy. He wasn't. That happened.
Nah.
More times than I like to remember. It was sort of
Yeah.
hurtful back then.
Yeah, and you know, there was a few.
Then I
of
stopped
those.
asking because I didn't want to
there was
know.
A few of those times, you know, but you know, working through it all.
Yeah.
You know, working through it all. You know, and then, you know, we had to, both of us learn how to take this into perspective. You know, and it's not, I don't think it's something that we necessarily sat down and talked about too early, but it was something that we just ended up doing. You know, we learned, you know, that we just had to do whatever it takes to run smoothly.
Yeah.
You know,
Pitch in, you jump in where you can, you know, was it
get in where you fit in. Right.
Yeah, you just jump in there and do
was
what you
it
gotta do.
the cartoon See a Need, Feel a Need?
Yeah.
was it-
Robots.
Yeah, Professor Bottoms. What was his name? Big Bottoms. What was his name? Copper Bottoms.
Big Weld.
Big
Weld.
Big Weld. But it was Copper Bottoms, right? Is that something else?
I think that's a different character. Don't quote me.
Kids
movies, Robots.
right.
Great movie, by the way. Excellent movie. See a Need, Fill a
See a
Need.
Need, Fill a
That
Need,
was Big
right.
Weld's whole philosophy, and that's how he built up his whole company, was to, if you see a need, you fill a need. And he was always looking for young inventors with creative ideas. It's great. It was a great movie.
Maybe it was the mother who was Copper Bottom. Somebody was Copper something. And I thought
There was
it
a
had to
Copper
do with
Bottom, I
Bottom.
think. There was Aunt Fanny.
Ain't fan.
She was artsy.
Yeah. Artsy
and
fartsy. Yeah.
A little bit more on the fartsy side. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we
So
just
it's
relived
it's
Robots.
Totally sidetracked off of that. Squirrel.
That was a great movie, though. Fun.
All right.
Lots of fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was good.
But back on track, we learned to jump in and do what needed to be done early in our relationship, or things were just not going to get done. I mean, it's just what it was. We were both, you know, working at the time. We had a small child, and you know, look, we just got to do it. So.
Yeah, and I was still, you know, when she was, you know, okay, so our first child, she had to experience bed rest, you know, and so therefore there was a lot of things that she couldn't or weren't supposed to be doing anyway. So what do? You know what I'm saying? You'd be like, oh, well, this is your job. You know what I mean? You supposed, no, that's not, you know, love. That's not how our relationships are supposed to work. You know, so even, you know, at that point, you still have to do what you have to do,
right.
Husbands and wives, you know, but this is how we worked it. Once again, that's how we worked it.
Our perspective. Yeah. So again, just like in our other episode where we talked about the myths and misconceptions of interracial dating, that we are not the experts on all relationships across the globe. This is what works for us. It may work for you. Sometimes when you just take the pressure off the table, it just makes it easier to have a relationship. So this is what we did, and that's what we're about to talk about. So.
Yep. And you take into consideration the differences again. You know, these were some differences that we had to work through. So, okay, go ahead.
Well, yeah. So, and some of the different thoughts, you know, that circulate for relationships, different opinions about those roles in the family, those roles in a marriage. You know, a lot of time you hear people say there's woman's work or man's work, and the woman's work is generally inside the home. You know, cooking, cleaning, taking care of the children, things like that. Do you remember when I used to ask you to watch the kids? Hey, can you watch the kids for me? Interesting statement, considering they're his children.
Right.
Dad should never watch the children. We're both adults. We should both be able to leave the house comfortable and letting the other person know, hey, I'm stepping out. You got the kids. So, but yeah.
Now, it can be a respectful thing. Don't just get up and leave.
Of course.
You know, it's like, okay, so I'm about to go somewhere. You know, would you mind? This is what I'm doing. I'm leaving the house. Yes. You know, so the kids are going to be here with you. You know, so don't you... If you plan on doing something, you know what I mean? We need to talk about that.
Of course.
You know,
I don't...
So
yeah.
It's more or less like that sort of thing, too. You know, but totally agree. You know, we shouldn't have to ask the other parent.
Because it felt like it was my job.
Right.
Not that you made me feel like that. That's just how I felt. Like it was my job. So if I had to abandon my job for any length of time, he needed to take over my job, not really understanding like this is our job together. Right. So
Yep.
That's what I meant by that.
Yep.
Also, so we can talk about man's work. A lot of times that's work outside the home. That's like earning the income. That's taking out the trash or doing the yard work, things like that. That's
Fixing
usually
the house.
Oh yeah, fixing the house.
Working in the garage.
Yeah, that's all.
Plumbing, electrical work, drywall.
Only if you're able to do those things. If you can't do them, stay away. That is not your job. Call
Not
someone. Yeah. So that's some like common / traditional thoughts and opinions on marriage roles.
Yeah.
So I'll let you go ahead into Ephesians.
Yeah. So now I do want to talk about Ephesians 5 and 23. 22 and 23. Really 22 all the way through the end of the chapter, which is 30, verse 33. And it's for the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the savior of the body. Now, we take this, not we, but people take this, scripture, out of context a lot of the times, in thinking that the husband is the head of the wife. He's the head of the house. So therefore he makes all the rules, and his wife is just supposed to follow everything that, he says. Wife, just do whatever I say. I said it because I'm the man. I'm the head of the house, and blah, blah, blah. When some men try to use this scripture to rule their households or lord over their family.
That's true.
And some women will even take the scripture and kind of throw it in the man's face, when it's convenient for them, when it's convenient. Oh, well, you the head of the house, you supposed to be, that's, we got, first of all, stop doing that.
Right.
If you're doing
both
that,
sides, stop doing that.
Stop throwing the word of God out there to use it as a weapon.
Unless it's against the enemy, but not against your spouse.
Yeah, that's not what that's for at all. And so what, my wife is my wife. You know what I mean? She's not my maid. She's not my slave. God took the rib out of the side of a man to be a partner.
Yes.
Now, don't get me wrong. Are there women out there who have been trained and not trained like, what I'm saying, but they've been brought up in a way that service to their husbands, and they don't mind doing all those things. Some women want to be stay-at-home moms, and they will cook and they will clean, and that's their drive, and that's what they love to do. That's their passion. That's great. That's wonderful, and all of that nature. But if you didn't marry that type of person, and then after you start having these types of conversations, and then it's like you trying to force it, on somebody else. That's not fair. That's not fair at all.
No, nor is that really God's way.
He
doesn't
really
force us, so why would he expect somebody to force somebody else to do something?
Not at all. So I would encourage anybody, to go over these scriptures in Ephesians chapter 5, starting in verse 22 and reading to 33, and understand really what the Word of God is really trying to say in this grouping of scriptures. Now, also, I want to bring up, that there were times when roles were reversed.
Yeah.
I couldn't find a job. When I got out of the military and we moved to Washington, I could not find a job for nothing. Fast food wouldn't hire me. The shopping mall stores, wouldn't have me. I'm looking at it. I got an honorable discharge from the military. There's no real reason why I should not have had a job.
Yeah, that whole stint in Washington State was very strange.
Very weird. Very weird. I ended up going to school, but there's no reason why I should not. So while she was working, guess who did what needed to be done? We had our son. So the cooking, the cleaning, making sure, he had a bath, playing with him, grocery shopping, doing all of that stuff became my responsibility while she was out working. So what? It's our family. That doesn't diminish me as a man and not taking care of my household, because I'm doing these things. And so therefore, if I would have had that mentality, then it all would have been shattered at that point because she was the one who was working.
Yeah. If you had a sort of a weak area there, that would have sort of crushed you.
Absolutely. And in my mind and in my heart, understanding, okay, she's working, so even while we were still going through trouble, you know, she's still working. I'm still supposed to do my best to make sure that she's comfortable when she comes home. So what I didn't know how to do far as
he
cooking,
he was probably a little better at that than I was.
you know, I picked up some recipes, you know, from a friend of mine that I had, you know, there because he would cook. Learned how to cook a few things from him. And I tried, and it wasn't successful all the time, you know, but I tried to make sure that dinner was ready by the time she got home. You know, tried to make sure our son had a bath, you know what I mean? Tried to make sure that things were done so that when she came home, she wouldn't have to worry about doing it. Now, I will admit that we were still having troubles in our marriage at that time. So there was a dual purpose to why I was doing everything I was doing. Some of it, not all of it. Because when she came home, and this is why me and y'all need to be careful about saying staying home ain't work. That's work.
It's more work.
Going to the everyday groceries, you know, and then sometimes where he, because we were still in and out of daycare at those times with Trayvon, there was sometimes where he would go, I could get certain things done, but sometimes he didn't.
Yeah, because you were out going on interviews and other things. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we did have somebody to watch him for short periods of time, you know, but taking care of all of that stuff all the time, that's work. And look, I ain't getting no nap. You know what I'm saying? Not that I was a napper anyway, but it still had to make sure he got his nap, got everything that he needed. So by the time that she got home, like I said, everything will be done, you know, for her to be comfortable. Dinner's done, and then she can eat. But then I needed a break. You know, it's time for me to get out the house now. You know what I mean? And so then I would still go over to a buddy's house and act foolish, you know, when I was still acting foolish at that time, you know, but that's work.
It is work. It's a lot of work. And so, yeah, I agree. And I feel like, so from my perspective, when I did stay home, so after we got out of the military, I had another son, and then and I worked a little bit here and there, but then I had the second son, and then we had our daughter. And so I stayed home for a long period of time. And while I was at home, I loved every minute of it. When I was a little girl, I wanted to be nothing more than a wife and a mother. And I say that because that was the height of the biggest thing that I could think that I wanted to do. That was my life goal. Like, I wanted to do that. And I did it, and I loved every minute of it. I don't have any, like, when I look back and say, you know, I feel like I lost time of my life. I don't feel like that. I feel like that was some of the best times of my life. You know, it's hard work. And especially if you're passionate about it, it's hard work, and you don't get to check out.
Right, that's true.
Because I'm going to tell you that when the kids would have nightmares and our little creepy kids would come into our bedroom and just stare there, they would just stand and stare at me. They were mostly coming to my side of the bed. And they would just stand there and they would just stare at you until you woke up, and you would wake up feeling like somebody is staring at you. Yeah. So, yeah, we had some little creepy kids coming in the middle of the night. But generally, because I was the one, you know, staying home with them at this time, they were coming on my side. I didn't get to check out. Not when I'm sleeping. Not when I didn't get to check out. So, I mean, it's not easy.
No, it's not.
It's not easy. So no. I don't like when people disrespect staying at home, working in the house mothers.
Right, and I mean, it's funky because we still know, you know, people to this day, you know, that have said, you know, that it's not work, you know, and when you know, when they get home, they expect all of this stuff to be done and perfect, you know, but then, like, you know, certain people, when the ball is in their court, these men, you know, every 15 minutes they call, okay, babe, what am I supposed to do this? You know, when are you coming home? All right, okay. 20 minutes? Okay. When you coming home? You know, so if it's not that bad, then you shouldn't have no problems handling your business at home with your kids.
Right.
Watching your children, taking care of your children.
Yep.
And so, you know, that's where, you know, thank God, you know, I didn't have that issue. They are my kids. You know what I'm saying? And I am their father. So to the best of my ability, you know, yeah, you can leave the house and know that your children are going to be safe and taken care of. They're going to have food, you know, they're going to have clothes, they're going to get a bath, you know, and you're not going to have to worry about coming home like, why is my house in shambles?
Right, right. Yeah, because that's awesome to come home to. But yeah, so again, just back to sort of like those marriage roles. I feel like again, we just really certain things. Each one of us is a little better at. I mean,
Yeah.
So there was a time where I feel like Teray was the better cook. But then when I started staying home and I was cooking more, because that made sense, I'm home, I can definitely have dinner ready. So as I started getting better at cooking, I started learning to do different things, more recipes. I had plenty of time to do that. And so then I sort of became the cook of the family.
Yeah.
But until then, I feel like, I did not learn to cook very well when I was growing up. My mom liked to have the kitchen to herself. She really wasn't in the mood to like teach people how to cook. It was more like get out of the way. So I really didn't learn a lot when I was growing up. So I learned a lot while we were together in our early days. So
yeah, and we was learning how to cook when we could look over the stove. Grilled cheese, hot dogs, hamburgers. I remember me and especially in the summertime, me and my best friend, we'd go over each other's house. What you got in the freezer, what you got, and he'd take what he had, and we would just go over each other's house and make lunch. We would just cook. Breakfast was always my thing, so I learned how to make French toast, pancakes. So I was always a breakfast person.
Yeah.
And those things were good, but during that time frame when I was at home is when I learned how to experiment more things with cooking. I'm at home.
You got time.
And so that's, and you did the exact same thing. But, going back to that specific topic of cooking, a lot of the men in my family, we talk about roles, a lot of the men in my family can burn. You know what I mean?
Them Jacksons can
cook like nobody's business. You know what I mean? And that's how some roles are. If we're going to call it roles, there are certain men that can cook and love to cook, more than their wives. Matter of fact, when we out in Washington, there was two guys, and he used to learn. I think he was a chef of some sort or whatever, because we used to get recipes from him too, and he cooked all the time. He cooked. He did his own dishes. You know what I'm saying, or put them in the dishwater.
Dishwasher.
The kitchen was his.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And she was like, I stay out of his business in the kitchen. You know what I mean? And so, once again, if we're going to say what's woman's and what's... it's...
But that goes back to what are you good at? What are you passionate about? What do you like to do?
Right.
So I'm going to tell you that I can't iron to save my life. I can't.
That used to be funny, though.
I was in the military. We were both in the military. We told you we were stationed in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. And you had to report to roll call, and you basically got like a little mini inspection to make sure your uniform was right. And I got hit all the time as unsat, which is unsatisfactory. So I got hit as unsat all the time because my stuff wasn't ironed well. But I would spend time ironing. That's what's crazy. I would iron. I was ironing, and I would still get hit with unsat. So at some point, Teray would help me out. Because, funny. I mean, you saw me.
I did. You try.
He sees me iron.
You tried.
It's just not good. I ruin stuff. I've done that. I've burned stuff because I got it on the wrong setting. That's just not it's not my skill set. It's not. But I do great with laundry. So
you do great with laundry.
I do great with laundry. I put it away. I fold it up right. I have it like all sorted, by colors. And then okay, it might be the same color, but it's not the same material. So I have to pull stuff apart, turn stuff inside out, like what gets hand washed, what doesn't. So I'm really good with laundry. So I do the laundry, but for real, even when we're getting ready for church in the morning, I'm like, babe, can you iron it?
He was ironing as a kid.
28 years later, babe, can you iron it?
So I don't know. I'm not going to say it's a cultural thing, but I am going to say that, we ironed early, as children because, it was,
my mother
important.
Didn't teach me that skill.
Church on Sunday had to be tight, and if you had on these, the specific type of pants, they had to be like darn near sharp as a blade where you could cut butter with them. I mean, they had to, the creases had to be creased. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Ain't like pants today that don't have no crease in them. You buy them, they don't have no crease in them. You just buy the pants. Dress pants had a crease in them, but you still had to, when you pull out of the dryer, you iron that dude, and them bugs could stand up. The pants could stand up by themselves.
why am I thinking about your dad right now?
Cause Pops was on it.
So
Teray's
dad,
jeans, because you can see that it's been ironed so much, the crease, would be lighter than everything else because the crease be so tight. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
quit acting like you don't know. And that, but the pants, you could darn near stand them jokers up on their own.
Probably stand up by themselves. Oh my gosh!
All that starch, that spray starch.
Wait a minute. One time I was in the grocery store. Hold on. Oh yeah. Oh, that's starch. So one time I was in the grocery store. So Daddy, Teray's dad, lived in a different city than us. We moved south of town. He was still, is it north? What is that considered?
That
Northwest?
Side of town. Yeah.
And he moved to our side of town eventually. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't used to seeing him in the grocery store because we were in different towns. And so the one time I was like, is that Daddy? Oh, wait, those creases. That's Daddy.
Crease.
I knew it was my father-in-law by the creases in his jeans.
Jeans wasn't no joke.
It was from behind, I'll have you know, and it was the creases that gave him away.
Jeans wasn't no joke. But that's just one of those things. And like we here just recently discovered, so, we're talking about roles and the man and the woman and this, that, and the third and the head of the house and things of that nature. We recently really discovered, our bill situation and our finances. Mm-hmm. You are the great planner, of these
extraordinaire.
Things. But it's like the money management. I have a better handle on that.
Yes, you're better at managing the money. Like I can map it all out.
Right.
You're better at saying no.
Yeah, saying no and pulling things back. Like, but it's hard on us because we still want to give each other what each other wants. Mm-hmm. However, I think I have a little bit more willpower to pull back, on things and be like, no, we're not doing that right now. And so the thing about, where we are now is at a place where we respect each other.
Yes.
And like we said, before, our differences where things used to be an argument, like, you ain't gonna tell me no, I'm gonna go do what I want to do.
Right, because I'm grown and I make the money too.
Right, and that's another thing, fellas. You can't be intimidated if your wife is making more money than you. Don't let that be intimidate you. There's nothing wrong with it. It all still comes into the same household, and that doesn't take away from your right. It doesn't take away from your ability to still be the leader of the home. Mm-hmm. You just still continue to work together. Wife, if your husband is feeling that pressure because he's not feeling like he's doing his duty to take care of his family, then ensure him, and build him up, and, just remind him and continue to reinforce, babe, this is for both of us. This is for our family. This is not, I make more money than you and you ain't doing your job. That's a lie. Stop believing that if you are. That's not true. Mm-hmm. I'm serious and I'm speaking from experience because there was a time or two. And for us, it's almost like this it's behind the scenes underwater competition, because there's been times I worked and I had a job, and I made the most money, and then I didn't work and then she had a job and then she made the most money, so it's almost like these couple times we've gone back and forth on who makes the most money. So right now I make a little bit more money than she does, so I'm still on top. Yeah, give it up, fellas. But if things go the way we want them to go, that's a wrap for me. But is it going to bother me? No. Mm-mm. No. This is my wife. No. It all comes into the, to the same house, and it's for us to take care of our family and to take care of each other. Mm-hmm. So there's not going to be any of that mess.
Mm-mm. Yeah, and I think, so just talking about the roles too, just, again, supporting each other, just lifting each other up, just making sure that, everything gets done and that there's no guilt and shame placed on people, because that's not cool. That's just not cool. And it doesn't make people better. I can assure you that by trying to guilt me into doing something, that does not make me better at it. Mm-mm. Actually, the opposite. If you want me to do something and when I do it, you praise me for it, I operate much better off of the praise. Like, wow, babe, thanks. You did a great job doing whatever, X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And I will want to do more of that because I enjoy the praise. Yeah. So, just learning each other and what works really, to really affirm. Some people need those words. Some people need those, the action behind it. People just are... everybody doesn't operate the same. Some people really feel like that's sort of patronizing when you, really try to compliment them on doing what they feel like it's not a big deal and I should be doing it. So please don't patronize me. So, so just learning what your spouse likes, what motivates them is sort of going to be a key to getting them to help you do the things that you want them to do.
Right.
And if you're one of those people that really thinks, if you're sitting there watching your spouse do all the work while you're like watching football and you see that they could use some help, I mean, I feel like just being a kind person to another human being, that should be bare minimum in your relationship. You should just get up and help.
Right.
So, I mean, we know people that are really particular about the things that they do. We have a very beloved friend. They were a couple. He has now gone on to be with the Lord, but he would not let his wife touch a trash bag.
No.
She was never going to take that trash out, period. Mm-mm. And he was never going to get stuck doing the dishes. Mm-mm. Not a chance. So, but those were things that were important to them, and that's okay.
That's okay.
And that's what we say, like, what fits you? What fits your family? What fits you as a couple, your identity as a couple? I mean, if certain gender roles, like traditional roles, are important to you, by all means, as long as you're both on the same page, do what makes sense for you. If you're open to something that's a little less traditional and you're okay with like, okay, just everybody jump in. I mean, my kids help on Saturday. We get up and, well, not so much now because they're all grown, but we would get up on Saturdays because I was working through the week towards the end. As they were getting older, I was working through the week. So guess what? My cleaning day was Saturday. I had to adjust my life. I used to clean every day. Now I clean on Saturdays. So the kids, we got up. We had to, we'd have like a nice little breakfast. We'd get up, we start cleaning. And then when the job was done, we could all go do what we wanted to do. But, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Everybody, that's how you learn. So we just pitch in. That's what we do as a family. We just, pitch in and do what needs to be done.
Yeah, and that, going back to that, statement about, forcing. You can force each other or try to force each other to do whatever it is you want each other. But you're not getting the whole person because they're doing it because they're being forced or made to do it. I would much rather... us have open communication and talk about something, and figure out what's going to work best for us instead of what works best for me.
Yeah.
Or what's just going to work best for you, without any real dialogue about it, and unfortunately we know people that are like that too. So, he's forced her to do, certain things, and you can tell she's only doing it because she feels like
so
she's
miserable.
made to do it. And it's not done with love, it's not done
all.
from a place of caring and, and her putting her best foot forward and doing it because there's like this joy in doing it and serving, her husband because she's being forced to do it, and while he's, doing whatever else he's doing and just kind of sit back and relax and just feeling like she's, his maid or whatever.
Yeah,
it's really a sad situation to see that, and so communication, folks, is always going to be the key. If you got different ideals coming into marriage about how these things should work,
most of us do.
Make sure you sit down, and talk about these things. Even after you're married, always have dialogue and keep those lines of communication open because things change, ideas change, attitudes change. Yep. Situations change, right?
Definitely.
Having children, it's difficult, to try to, be one person and run around and try to do everything. You need that partner. That's why God created a help meet, for us to help each other and respect each other, not for one person to have to go off and do everything on their own while the other person is just sit back, enjoying life. Once again, if you're that type of person and you don't mind doing it,
right, and you've agreed to that and you're good with it,
but if there's an issue there, then you guys have got to be able to talk about it because it's going to wear one or the other person down, and all you're going to do is be continuously unhappy through your married life. And whether you leave or threaten to leave or whatever things could happen, it's not the way God designed or wants your marriage to be. So.
No, and I'll just say that. So for me, I love serving you first. Like, when we would sit down together, like I mean, it wasn't like he was sitting there eating while all the kids were like starving. It wasn't that scenario, but it was sort of just my show of love to him and respect, that I would serve him for. I still serve him first. But he's so good. He's so gracious. Sometimes he'll jump up and get it before I can get it, and he'll serve me first, or he'll help me serve everybody first. You know what I mean? But I really do, and I have taught my daughter, because I do feel like that's a respectful thing.
That's right.
But I'll say that our sons have seen him do the same for me. So we're not teaching them to be what is it called? Misogynistic?
Yeah.
Okay, stumbled over that one. But so we're not teaching that, but for me, it's an act of love. Like, I feel like that's an act of respect for my husband. So I do that. But, and sometimes that's cultural. Sometimes your culture has just, has taught you to do that. Again, if you're cool with that, that's awesome. I don't think there's anything wrong with that kind of stuff. I think it's beautiful. And I think as long as it's reciprocated in some form or fashion, I think that's what's healthy, and that's the balance. Some people be like, ooh, you serve your husband? I do, but guess what he does for me?
Right.
So, so I think that's important. I think that's balance. And I think it's interesting that probably every conversation we have, every episode that we will have, every weekly episode that we will have will probably all come down to communication, because you cannot function in a marriage if you don't communicate with each other. If you don't communicate your wants and your needs and your hurts and your pains, if you don't communicate that, it just piles up, and it's not good. It's not good.
Not at all. But I will say this, and I do appreciate, that you do serve me and serve me out of love. If by chance you ever want to, like Sarah did Abraham, if you ever want to call me Lord, I ain't going to be mad at you.
I'll work on that, babe.
I ain't going to be mad at you. I'd appreciate it, and I'll be like, let's do this.
I'll work on that.
Okay. I'm just throwing it out there. I didn't say you ain't got to. I'm just saying, like, if you ever really want it to be scriptural.
I'll be scriptural. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, baby. Let's do this. So for real though, but communicate, work things out, and what's going to work best for you. That's always going to be the key, is what's going to work best for you, and how you guys are going to work through things together. Always going to be the best thing. Yep. You want to finish it?
Yeah, I can, sure. So, if you like what you heard tonight and you want to hear more from us, just remember that every Tuesday we are dropping a new episode. So if you want to listen to our podcast, you can find us anywhere on any podcast platform. iTunes, Spotify, and Google. It's so funny. I'm trying to remember all these places. So I get a little tongue-tied sometimes.
Just like that?
Yeah, just like that. Well, I was trying to say twisted and tied at the same time. So. Yeah. So again, every Tuesday we'll drop a new episode on iTunes, Google, Spotify.
Yeah.
We also have a Facebook page. We would love for you to follow us and request to be our friend.
Yeah, request.
And we have a group there, and we would love to partner with you so that we can have that two-way conversation and just share some really thoughtful, encouraging things. Sometimes funny, sometimes spiritual, sometimes thought-provoking things in our Facebook group.
Yeah.
And that would be at Covenant Therapy Marriage Ministry at Teray and Janine. We also have an Instagram page. I'm new to Instagram. This is my age totally showing now. And it is at Covenant_Therapy_.
Yep.
And we are on YouTube. So if you prefer to see our lovely faces each week, you can go out and find us on YouTube and like and subscribe and follow us.
Covenant Therapy Marriage Ministry
Set
on
your
YouTube.
alerts.
Yep. Like, subscribe, share, subscribe. Like, subscribe. Yeah, I'm telling you.
Oh, you were laughing at me. It's not funny, huh?
Yeah, until it happens to you.
That's right.
Yeah, subscribe, like, share, hit the notifications bell, all of those wonderful things. And every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday. So, dun, 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 dun. Until next time.
Until next week.
That's right. Be blessed.
Thank you. See ya.